BooBaes. BooBaes.
Hello
And hi, and welcome.
to
BooBaes.
BooBaes. I'm Joshua.
And I'm Caitlin. We're your host,
We are
and we're here to talk about,
Hellraiser 2022.
yes,
Yes.
not anything else.
Just the same title,
Same title.
but 2022 version.
Our favorite
Very Scream.
way to rename a film.
Scream 5. Scream 2022.
Cream.
5 Cream. But yeah.
Directed by David Bruckner.
Released
Now, he's
on,
done a lot, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
I hadn't even looked yet.
For
but-
David Bruckner.
Yeah, but I know that name.
Yeah, he definitely has had a lot of films. Like The Night House, The Ritual. He's been in VHS. He
that's
did one of
what
those.
we did, and that's right.
And we covered that.
And The Ritual.
And The Ritual, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember us talking about. Okay, yeah, so that's why he sounds familiar.
So we've definitely already have covered movies of his before. Have you seen The Night House? The Night House?
I haven't. I remember wanting to see it in theaters, and then I feel like someone did. You see it in theaters?
I didn't see it in theaters, but I did watch it. I liked it.
Okay, I remember someone seeing it, and they were like, "Not worth it." And then I just haven't seen it. I haven't been able to go to the actual movie theaters in a while.
But I understand, because it really does sometimes only just take that one negative comment for you to be like, I don't want to invest a couple hours of my time to go watch it or pay for it. Yeah. Until it maybe just comes across my way somehow.
Yeah.
But I thought it was pretty good. It was interesting. But yeah, directed by David Bruckner. We have a cast of I recognize the two guys, her brother and his boyfriend from a few things. He's the dude from 13 Reasons Why,
Faison.
right? And I didn't recognize the lead actress.
Oh yeah,
but her face does look familiar.
It does. Also,
her name is Odessa Faison. Hopefully, I'm saying that correctly.
I wonder if that was her like real lips or what, but they felt like so over.
They might have been drawn with some makeup overdrawn a little bit.
They were like really over. It looked like she had a bad lip fill.
That I made the same comment actually.
I was like, am I allowed to say this? I don't know.
To Robert, but
I was like, girl needs a new lip person.
But it could be that they just overdraw them for the character, or because she is kind of, a rehabilitating addict. So maybe she was supposed to look just kind of like, a little bit more rough around the edges. As I guess that was their depiction of the character. But
she looks, when you click on her.
That's funny.
That's a good picture.
She seems like she's got a good, funny personality.
22 years old. Her siblings are Valentine, Rocky, Adion, and Gideon.
These are some names.
They really are.
That's good. That's creative. I like that.
Is it?
I do.
No, it's fine. It's when some parents go.
Well, there's some that are a little out there.
Remember when COVID happened and all the people were like,
didn't Kylie name her baby Woof, and now she changed it to Air?
Oh my god, that's the dumbest. What is this kid an airbender?
I don't know. It could be. It could be. He could save us all. But we also have Jamie Clayton in here playing the new priest.
Yeah.
Credited as the priest, but as we all know, is Pinhead.
Even though Clive Barker didn't like. So I thought that was neat that David Bruckner took it back towards more of Clive Barker's original intention with going towards the priest and making it more like an actual religious kind of experience, and there being an actual god and
all the levels and tiers to everything.
That part was pretty cool. It is like we were talking before we started recording. Like you said, it's like a reimagining. It's not
Yeah, because they're really telling the story, and they're actually reimagining what this puzzle box actually means. Because in the first one, it's not as in depth about like,
these different phases.
Mhm.
It doesn't change shapes like to a big cube diamond thing either.
Yeah.
Like it mainly stays in a cubicle kind of formation and it kind of comes
Yes.
out, but then it comes back in.
Yeah.
And never like changes to a weird, I don't know what it would be called.
Yeah. It almost like was, what's the word? Like,
Triangular
mhm,
box. I don't know.
it does. It reminds me of like nanotechnology, like all those little pieces, like just kind of transforming, almost Transformers like.
Yeah.
But yeah. It was pretty cool though to watch it go through all of its phases.
Mm-hmm.
The one after her brother died, essentially, and it was kind of like almost like a star. I liked that version.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty cool.
Like a Star of David.
But this box, if I ever come across a box like it, I will not touch it.
No, absolutely not. Stay
so
away from it. Man, they really did him dirty with this picture.
Drew Starkey,
Yeah.
who plays our lovely Trevor, who's not so lovely
No.
at all.
He made me sad.
Mm-hmm.
He had a great booty.
Oh, he did, didn't he?
And that,
yeah. Because they have right before, when he's in the shower, right before she comes over.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you want to go ahead and get into it?
Yes.
Yeah, let's dive into it. So it opens up on the city. It reminds me a lot of Candyman.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's like a very urban scene. The music, I couldn't take it. It was like Avengers type music, or like, what's that one guy that likes to explode everything? Yeah, he's like the director. He blows everything up.
Oh, like Michael Bay?
Yeah, Michael Bay. It gave Michael Bay film.
Yeah, like
with
a Transformers
the music,
vibe.
It was like, boom.
Yeah, I can see that
with that big bass kind of thing coming in.
And it was really Candyman, and then it does seem like that, more of like an action type of movie, instead of what we were going into.
Yeah, more than horror flick.
A little bit of action, but not really.
Yeah,
only running away from Cenobites.
Yeah.
And then that scene in the hallway, the hidden hallway between Nora and
was that the recreation of the?
No, so tunnel? Yeah, you're right. Okay. Yes, because
I was waiting for it.
My bad. Yeah,
but I could see it because the shadow of him with that Voight with that I don't know, it kind of reminded me of like a cog system, like clocks.
Yeah, that
almost
was pulling his nerves.
Yeah, wild.
Ugh.
It was pretty cool. That looked cool. But yeah, his silhouette in the back of that hallway as he was running through, I was like, okay, this must be it, because it looks kind of similar to the way that bug
looked like in the first one with the little head for the belly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we have it opening up on we have
Miss Serena,
Miss Serena in a vehicle, and she's meeting up this dude, and it's very hush hush. She's got a big bag of money, and she is purchasing and looking for the box that we all know, which is in his duffel bag or his briefcase. My bad.
His is inside a dusty ass wooden box.
That's what it is.
It's a wooden box, and then she hands over a shiny nice briefcase, and I was like, and then he opens it and it's stacked with money, and so I was like, damn, man, you look like you're getting ripped off.
Yeah, for sure.
Handing over all this money for a very dirty looking box.
But when we do know that she's working on behalf of Mr. Voight, who doesn't do anything that he can't have someone else do.
Yeah, which is like, okay,
essentially. So he's just apparently that rich, and he
must be nice.
Right? I know. Imagine being that rich that like you're searching for a demonic puzzle box that like grants you even more whatever. Yeah,
more power, more everything. Yeah, which is, I feel like a very common trope for.
Oh yeah,
it could be potentially real. Who knows if people are
people always want more power.
Yeah,
and actually selling their souls.
To the devils.
That's interesting.
And like the whole lore of the Denver airport and all the underground tunnel systems that's supposed to have like lizard people and all the like higher ups of the world convene there in the event of an apocalypse and stuff. He'd be there.
And like all the murals and all the art and all the horse and all the signs and stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of conspiracy theories.
It's so fun. Whenever I love how they played into it because I flew into Denver while it was under construction, and they were like, half the signs were saying like, oh, we're just hiding our lizard people.
Really?
Yeah, it was funny. They were like, don't mind our dust, we're just trying to cover up a conspiracy.
For world domination. Oh my gosh.
I was like, hell yeah, that's funny. Which made me believe it even more because I was like, oh, when you lean into something,
it might be actually true. To redirect the, suspicion. And so we have her getting the box. She gets it. And then this is whenever we switch up to like there's a party going on in his house essentially,
we're
right?
in the Berkshires, which is a very common, like, if you live in the Berkshires, you're rich as fuck.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Massachusetts.
I've never heard of it.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay. I mean, obviously the house is so huge.
Yeah,
it got money.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And so we open up to that dude. Did we get his name? What was his name?
Joey.
Joey, right?
He's
Joey.
an Edward Cullen type. He was given Robert Pattinson a little bit
early
from like
back
some
in the
angles,
days.
and then other angles I was like, no.
Well,
but some vibes I was like, he could be Edward Cullen.
He does give those like vampire heartthrob vibes, and so we don't get him too long actually. No, because he catches up with Serena at the bar, and they have this little exchanging of words, and that's whenever she tells him to go to a room that's like on the far left at the end of the hallway
with double doors.
Be
there in 10.
Yeah. And I guess he's just looking for a great experience. Like, yeah.
I mean, clearly we saw it was a very lavish party too. Yeah. People were fucking on the couch.
And he had a sex dungeon, remember, in that house, sex room thing. Because if you notice, even on the wall, did you notice that like the murals and stuff of the people were like fucking?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there was literally a lady like just like riding a penis.
Nice.
And so very brothel. And so, yeah, he ends up going to the end, walks into a room. We have Mr. Voight himself in there.
That was a really cool room.
But not before we do see him looking at all of like, there's artifacts.
Yeah, it definitely, it looked like a museum.
Yeah.
And whenever he goes and touches the box, I'm like, God damn it. Like, this looks like a museum full of the lasers are going to go off. You pick it up like.
Or Indiana Jones.
Yeah. Something's going to happen. The room's going to.
There's booby traps.
Yeah.
And so he sees the what we know as the box from Hellraiser. And we get it from an angle where it looks like the regular box, but then the camera changes and it's a lot longer than we usually see it.
Already opened. Which was cool. I really liked it because I was like, oh, there it is. And then I was like, JK.
Yeah.
That is different than what I know. But I mean, it was fun. I liked that.
It's better than having the little zaps go around.
Yes, much more so.
Yeah.
If that movie, Andrew was so mad at me because I told him like what I gave Hellraiser, and he's like, "Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah,
the movie was trash." And I was like, "I liked it." And then this morning, I was like, "I don't like this one," and he was like, "Well, no, duh." He was like, "The original one was awful." And
already awful. He said, look at the original.
Yeah.
Everybody has their own opinion.
That's true.
Yeah.
It made me sad.
It's okay. He likes signs and we like signs.
That's true.
Yeah.
So didn't scare me though.
Oh no. Well, it did me.
Yeah.
In a whole different way though. But I would agree with you and say like it's not like it's like scary.
Yeah.
And, scary and like scary. Yeah. I don't know. It gave me a lot of existential, like irrational fear.
Yeah. We love it.
So we end up I love whenever he does actually see that box too, like the whole like music and the score changes, like there's like a bass drop and it's just like
that's when we got that real like big boom.
And then Mr. Voight comes out and he starts talking to him, and already from the get-go I'm like, already like this is suspicious. Mr. Voight seems like a bad guy.
Yeah, he's like talking in riddles.
Yeah.
Which is always a bad sign.
And Joey's like, what is this? And he's like, it's a puzzle box.
Forgotten until now.
Yeah, it's very cryptic and
Almost
very
finished.
beating around the bush.
Yeah.
And so that's whenever he's like telling him like, it's ready for you to finish it or discover it. I don't know. And he ends up changing it around, which is really cool to watch.
Yeah.
And we do see it that it starts shifting. And as soon as it does that, it releases a blade that cuts into his hand.
Yeah.
And immediately he's like, oh, what the fuck? Like you just see it in his face.
Yeah. He's like,
Yeah.
uh-oh.
Mm-hmm.
I liked how too, before he went to solve it, he was like, well, if I solve it, do I get a prize?
Yeah. Because like, why wouldn't you do anything for like not
what's
getting a
in
prize?
it for
Yeah,
me,
exactly.
kind of thing. And then whenever Voight responded, I do, I was like, whoop.
That already sounds bad.
Yeah, it did. And so I was curious as to what his role was at that point too, because I was like, oh, well, this is clearly a bit different.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, and I liked it.
And he ends up trying to run off, but he can't get out because Mr. Voight goes and hits the little breaker box and like those gates close on him.
Mm-hmm. And he was like, so at first I didn't know that it had, basically I'm assuming the knife that comes out has some sort of like
a poison effect.
Yeah. Poison, something in it.
Yeah.
And at first I was like, yo, that's kind of a little, like you're kind of being a little baby right now. Like you're overreacting for that.
Getting stabbed in the hand though.
Well, I know, but like
you did have a nail through your foot.
Yeah.
So
my mom told me, she messaged me after she listened to that, and she just had everything happen.
Yeah.
And she was like, I had a nail go through my foot, and I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like today? And then she was like, no, like years ago. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, Jesus Christ, your life is sucking right now. But
yeah.
She said she had one go all the way through her foot. It went through, and then it came out with when she stepped up.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
See, like I know I said I'm interested in seeing how it feels, but I don't want the pain.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I'm just interested, like, what does that even feel like? I guess it's just so much feeling that you go in shock, right? It just hurts.
Yeah, I feel like whenever it punctures that deep, because like the paper cuts hurt more because they're on the nerve endings, but then deep cuts, like most of your nerves have been severed. Like whenever my knee, like I fell out of the tree, and I had anymore. That giant like flump of knee come out. Yeah, it was really bad. I had to get stitches. But I basically fell out of the tree. I couldn't really feel anything. My hand like went to my knee. Ouch. And then I like pulled it off, and I saw my knee like go with my hand, and I was like, guys, I think I'm bleeding. And they were like, what? And I pulled my hand away, and they're like, Jesus Christ. Like,
there's the bone.
Get her. And then I didn't cry the whole time.
Really?
Not even while getting stitches, nothing.
I feel like you have a high
I do have a really high pain tolerance.
Yeah.
But like I feel like I couldn't really, like I wasn't like, oh God, like with everything I wasn't hurting because I think
shock?
it was deep enough. Yeah, probably also in shock.
Like your body is like making you not feel it.
Yeah. And I know that my body does, because whenever I was getting my side tattoo, like on my rib cage, the first time, now it doesn't do it anymore, which is pretty fucking dumb. But whenever I first started getting tattoos, eventually at one point this went numb. I couldn't feel it.
Yeah.
And so I was just like,
keep going.
Yeah.
Finish it out.
And then now my body's like, no.
Well, your tattoos are pretty massive
every
too.
Ounce of pain.
I mean, you have small ones, but like you have some really like.
I do have some larger pieces.
Take up a good chunk of your skin.
Chunk of skins. Lots of chunks of skin in here.
Like imagine if you were to get skinned. Like that would be pretty. You can make like a really nice, cute furniture piece with that.
With all of my, it's like a tapestry.
Yeah, with like the little tassels at the end.
There was like some Yakuza guy who would collect, or some guy who would collect like the skin of Yakuza, and like the Japanese mob. And basically they like tattoos in Asian cultures a lot of the times, unless you're like a monk, are typically mean you're in the mob or
organized
underground
crime.
Yeah, organized crime. And so they're like really kind of looked down upon there. But yeah, they well, not as much anymore, but this guy was like he was like cutting skin off of
already dead people.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
And he had like this like collection of tattoos from people's bodies. Isn't that wild?
Ew. Yeah.
Or is this a dream I made up? No, I'm pretty sure this is a real life thing. It sounds real.
Did he just like dehydrate it and like keep it like jerky?
Yeah.
Oh, why would
you bite into it?
Chewy. It probably would be really chewy. I think it tastes like pork. I think that's what I heard.
Really?
But I can't confirm that.
We're little piggies.
And so, like you said, he's feeling the effects of whatever the blade's done to his body, and he ends up not being able to leave. So obviously he's in a lot of distress, while Mr. Void over here is like being fucking crazy.
Yeah, he's being real cryptic. He's like,
talking
show me the Leviathan.
And speaking to, like
the sky.
the deity, a god, which is the Leviathan, who is basically like, the king of the Cenobites, or the, leader of hell. I don't know, whatever their other void of a place is.
Show me the Pentacant of the Leviathan.
And so poor Joey starts getting chained up, just like how we would see in the original, in the 1987 version.
Yeah.
And so poor dude is just going through it because he's strung up. We have Mr. Voight doing his whole spiel. We have the little thing changing into its Leviathan configuration.
And I like how all of it's happening in the background too.
Mm-hmm. You don't necessarily see him, but we know what's happening, and you can hear him just screaming in agony.
Yeah. That was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciated that.
And so we have that whole opening sequence, and it's almost kind of like, I guess, paying homage to the 87 version, but it's not the same at all, because
but the chains were kind of tying him up in the same way, or getting his skin, and we get a nice, like, now I will say this, the chains going into the skin this time looked much better. That was my only like real qualm with the way that the effects were in the 1987 version, was that skin
was just like a little fake. Remember we said it looked like the jelly stuff, or like the thing that tattoo artists practice on.
Yeah, not that good.
Yeah, and so it transfers over to a sex scene, which I thought was also reminiscent of the old movie too. Whenever we had that sex scene, and then like him trying to move the furniture up the stairs.
Yes.
Yeah. Except it's just two regular people.
Two regular people.
Not a bloody demon body.
Not a bloody
Frank.
demon body.
Brother Frank.
Brother Frank.
Yeah.
So a Leviathan too is like that's a very common, like, it's in the Bible. And
for like a big beast, right?
Yeah, it's a sea serpent.
A
sea serpent noted in theology and mythology. And in like the Old Testament, Leviathan appears in Psalm 74:14 as a multi-headed sea serpent that is killed by God and given as food to the Hebrews in the wilderness. But often a sea serpent is how they are. And so I wonder if that's why a lot of the blue on the wall, whenever it would, whenever things would start shifting, it looked almost like water, like light reflecting underwater kind of thing. That's what it looked like on the walls to me, rather than just the blue glow that it was before.
Yeah, I could see that. There could be like a sequel to this where we actually get to see like what their version of all that is.
Yeah.
Just like how we did kind of start seeing at the end how there was like almost like a merging of the different worlds with like
that big thing coming
the maze and then like the thing.
Yeah. I was wondering, okay, because whenever they did show that out, I was like, when did the grounds get all these other buildings?
Yeah.
Okay, so the maze was like a part of the other. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was like, did I fucking miss something? I didn't see this many buildings around it before. I thought it was trees.
And I want to watch the second one of the sequel to the first one, the original one, because I think it kind of delves into, remember when she runs out at the end of it and they're like in this other place? I think that's what that is kind of referencing as well.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, so we do have all of that happening. And we open up with meeting Riley. She's having sex with Trevor. And he kind of goes overboard and tells her that he loves her.
Yeah, she's like, I love this. And he's like, I love you. And I was like, oh.
Which I feel like who hasn't been there? I feel like in one way or the other, either you're getting told that or you might have told someone that. I don't know. And so that's whenever we do have her kind of stopping the whole, it kind of ruins the vibes.
She's like, Wicca, what? Get off.
Yeah.
Get off right now.
For sure. And they walk out, and that's whenever we see that the whole gang's out there in the kitchen. Her brother
that's when it also gives us the 6 years later, right?
That's true. Oh, after, yeah.
6 years after that event. So we know that we've hopped a bit into the future. Yeah, that was a really funny scene, though.
That's
whenever
true.
they come out, like, oh, and the way Colin's just like cracking up on the couch. Yeah. He's really trying to hold it in, though, because he knows Matt would be like, it's a fucking serious situation.
Yeah.
Like, stop laughing. But he was just
I think it's different when it's like maybe your sibling. Like, that's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is weird. I tried to imagine myself in that situation. Once she said, this is my brother, I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
I thought maybe they were just gay roommates.
Yeah.
Hanging out and stuff. And then when she said brother, I was like, nope.
Yeah.
No way I'd be able to just like
because then
openly.
Yeah, it's awkward because then they kind of have little introductions, and then she's like, or they're about to have dinner, and I don't remember, is it
Nora
her or
made
him?
tapas.
It's either the brother or him, and they're like, stay, and he's like, no, I actually have to go. I have to go work, deliver paintings or something like that.
Trevor did say that he had to go and Matt was like, no, like you should stay, and he was like, stay? And then he was like, oh, no, wait, let's remember the situation where I just told her I loved her. Yeah. And she stopped the sex. So yeah, I'm going to go.
So he does end up leaving. And that's whenever he starts talking to Riley, Matt, and basically already it's building up their dynamic where he's really, I don't even think he's overstepping. I think he's just genuinely caring about his sister who's trying to rehabilitate herself. And so he just doesn't want her to. It was a
little harsh when he was like, what guy in their right mind would want to date someone out of a 12-step program? I was like, damn, that's really fucking
It was
mean.
Disparaging to her.
Yeah.
But I do see like his point of view. Yeah, there's just a way to say it. You know what I mean? Yeah,
there's maybe
that was definitely a more harsh way.
Yeah,
but
and
definitely,
he's caught up in his emotions.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. It
he
definitely feels like
cares about her,
especially when he's like frustrated with her. Probably, who knows? It does give that there's like a lot of like effort being put into like trying to keep her clean. Yeah. And this is like the third or fourth time they're like going at it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because he's letting her live with like in his house rent free, as we find out, because he's like, I can't keep covering for you. Yeah. You keep missing rent. And
if you do this, yeah.
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 I get it.
But all of that to say is that that's whenever we do have I think she goes over to his place, right?
Yeah, basically
she goes to Trevor's.
Let's go to Trevor's.
And obviously it's a really, really big red flag because homeboy has like a really nice pad.
He did.
And like all these stuff in there. And I'm just like, how do you have all this like...
It's like a real good like 1-bedroom like but like studio like loft style massive. Like,
yeah, it gives Mr. Voight was paying for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I honestly wasn't expecting that though.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Whenever Voight came out and he was like, Mr. Voight, at first I thought he was just like, oh shit, like I've seen you in the pictures.
Yeah,
and
I know
then
who
I was
you are.
like,
yeah.
Oh.
No, they know each other.
On it. Okay, also I just gotta say, a lot of this, for some reason, I think it was because of the shower scene, and then like the way that he comes out wrapped in the towel and stuff really reminds me of Tomb Raider. Like,
yeah.
And
I've never seen Tomb Raider, so
yes, that was.
I know what you're talking about.
For me,
for Miss Laura Croft.
Yes, and also Daniel Craig in that movie.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know he was in it.
Yes, and I think it's Laura Croft Tomb Raider. Yeah, I think it's the first. No, it's not the first one.
The second one.
It was the second one because there's Tomb Raider, Laura Croft Tomb Raider, and then Laura Croft Tomb Raider. Blah 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 blah. Something with more words. I just don't remember the full name.
Cradle to the Grave.
So, yeah, something like that.
Yes, I think I remember that.
But Daniel Craig in that movie, whenever he's got a shower scene and he comes out and he says like, I'm gonna have to go take a cold shower or something.
Oh, yeah.
And man, both of them being there, I was like, damn, yeah, some fine motherfuckers. It wasn't a sexual awakening for me. That was the Fox and the Robin Hood movie.
Yeah.
And both of them, Mary and that fox. Robin Hood and Mary Magdalene or whatever.
I can't say I've ever seen Robin Hood either. Are you talking about the animated version?
Yeah, where they're foxes.
They're
so cute.
I think I know what you're talking about. He's a fox and he's got the green hat and all that stuff. Yeah. Okay, but I've never seen it.
I loved them.
That's Disney? Is it? I don't know.
That and then, we all know, I've talked about my weird first crush. It's also
Which one?
Jafar.
Yeah. But also Aladdin and Jasmine, really beautiful people.
Yes.
Come on.
And then also Jafar.
Jafar.
I don't
He
get
was
it.
giving daddy vibes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was 5.
It is a vibe. A lot of people like a good Jafar.
But also then, so whenever I looked it up, because I was trying to like make sure that I was thinking of the correct Laura Croft and everything, and actually that it was Daniel Craig in there. Look, John Voight is this man's name.
Yeah, I
Isn't
was
he?
actually thinking of Mr. John Voight too. Whenever he kept hearing Voight in this movie.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, how interesting that he was in this film as well.
And he is her father. And
in both the film and in real life. And Daniel Craig's character, Alex, I'm pretty sure was in on it too in Tomb Raider.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, and they they were like
a
enemies.
similar character.
Yeah, and then they were like hot for each other.
Yeah.
But I think, and if I remember correctly, now it's been a long time since I think he dies.
Oh shit, Daniel
Just
Craig.
like, yeah. Also, so recently
What'd you
like
watch?
4 months ago, Dr. No, the like first James Bond movie.
Oh, I
OG.
haven't seen the originals. No,
yeah,
I don't know.
Neither had I.
Yeah.
But my dad,
There's
like
so many.
There really are. I didn't know there were so
It's
many.
like 20 something films.
Yes.
Or more.
Because there's like
maybe less, but
there's like 4 different James Bonds. I didn't realize there were that many.
They start them. They and every cycle, the last movie in their title has the word die in it.
Yeah.
And then they start off again, and then they do it again.
It was kind of cool.
Every
like,
4 movies, every 4 or 5, sometimes 2.
Learning about that, yeah. But that for some reason, like I guess it was just to celebrate it or whatever. They were showing Dr. No in theaters.
Oh, cool!
The original.
So you went to watch it in theaters?
Yeah, with my
That's
dad.
Cool.
And then it had a little documentary after it. We didn't know that it was going to have that, because then we were like, oh,
there's another 15 minutes. Yeah.
Oh, it was like we were there for an additional like 30 minutes. And
then
we left before it was done.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But then they were talking about how Daniel Craig was like getting shit on for Bond because they were like a blonde Bond and he's ugly.
Oh my God.
I was like,
poor Daniel Craig. He's not ugly.
I don't think he's ugly.
Yeah.
And then I was like, young Caitlin also thought he was very hot in Tomb Raider.
He's very handsome.
Yeah.
He's got them blue eyes.
But apparently he got a lot of shit. Like the media was just like dogging on him.
That's true, because all the Bonds before were like brunette, and like Pierce Brosnan was the last one before, I think, right? Yeah. Or he was one of them.
They were like tall, brunette, like men. And then he's like kind of shorter stature, I think. And then blonde. Yeah. And they were like, I think also giving him shit for his body, like not as fit. And I was like, he's also still super fit.
Yeah, for sure, for his age.
Yeah. And then they saw the movie.
Age is nothing but a number.
And once they saw that and stuff, then they were like, oh shit. No, he's perfect.
He is Bond.
Yeah.
And there's he got 4 more out of him because he just did the last one and that was the last one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I've still never seen any of those either.
I've seen them. They're good.
But I do know
minus like
Adele wrote a song for
one
it.
of them. Skyfall.
For Skyfall.
Yeah, that was a good one.
And that's all I know.
I think like that's kind of like the everybody agrees that that's the best one.
Anyways, Daniel Craig, hot. And Trevor at some points was given hot. But then also at some points I was like, your face looks weird. Get away. Not really. He just gave he looked very young in some shots.
Maybe.
Didn't he?
Not to me.
Oh.
But I did also get suspicious vibes from him.
Yeah, I was not suspicious the whole time. Except for in whenever they were with Serena. I was a little like, okay, what are you doing?
Well, and then especially, here now, he knows that she's like recovering from like trying to do drugs and all these things. And then like she's talking to him about how she needs to like get money and like do this stuff. And so he's like, okay, well, I've got kind of like a job. Obviously he's into like illegal shady shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that was just already like, well, that's sus. That's a red flag right there.
I just thought maybe he was not the best of people.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And so he ends up roping her into doing something where it requires him to wait in the car. It's like the middle of the night, and that's whenever
rob a warehouse.
Robbing a warehouse, and they go in there and they find a big old what are those called? Like storage containers that are on the boats. Yeah. And so that's whenever they open it up, and it's so because there's a box inside a box inside a box. Yeah.
It was just, and it was so funny that it was that giant shipping container just for this like one tiny safe.
Yeah, right in the middle of it.
Yeah, I was like, oh, how picturesque.
And so, yeah, right. And so they end up going to it, and obviously they don't have the code, which I thought also, it's like, why doesn't he have a fucking code for this?
Yeah.
But
and it was sus how he knew. But I thought it was just because he was a delivery guy, and that I believed him. I fell for his charm.
When you rewatch it back, you're like, oh man, this guy is like in from the get go.
Yeah, because I thought he legitimately did just remember the code because he like delivered something there, and I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Because sometimes
you were also under the spells.
I was. It was the spell of the booty.
The butt.
I honestly thought that was Colin's butt at first. Like the way that it looked, I thought he was like taking an emotional shower.
Yeah.
and then I was like, oh, what? Because then his hair was all spiky, and I was like, who the fuck is this? And then I was like, Trevor. Oh, it's Trevor. I was entranced by his booty.
And so we do have Miss, what's her name, Riley, just kind of hacking away at the safe with it's like a sledgehammer or a hammer thing. I don't even know what you call it. A mallet. Yeah, that type of hammer. And he's like, you're not going to get it open. And she's just like, there's a trick to everything. And then voila, it just, comes right off. Yeah. And so that's whenever they do get inside there. And of course, there's a box in there, a little wooden box.
A crusty looking.
I said, and when they open it, we do have, what is it? What do you think? The puzzle box. But also, there's like little droplets of dry blood, like on the wooden box. And I'm just like, does nobody else see the dry blood? That's just like all over looks like splattered.
Oh, yeah. Like someone died and then it went.
Yeah, but I did like how there was just the boxes inside the boxes because that gives already like a puzzle within itself.
Yeah.
And so that's also too, there was another red flag here because they're talking about it and she's kind of already bewildered by it. You can like almost entranced by it. She's intrigued.
Yeah, I feel like the box must call to people. Like it has this pull.
Yeah.
Because the way that Joey even stepped into it at the beginning, like there were so many other artifacts. Of course, this one was in the center of the room.
And then also too, if we were referring back to the original, how it had kind of the same pull on Miss, the lady who is having the affair. I forget her name already. We just covered the movie.
I can't remember it either.
But the wife, yeah. We know who we're talking about.
What was her name?
Kind of the same thing. Like it was like pulling and coming and making her go back to the attic, And so we do have, while you're looking up the name,
I have to know.
I know. Julia. There you go.
Okay.
You typed fast.
Oh, I did this. I went back
to the notes. Perfect.
The notes from.
Duh. Right, I could have just done that too. And so then we have her and him talking about it, and he's rather easily like she's like, I'll take it. And he's like, yeah, you just take it. You can have it.
Yeah. Hey, on which I was like,
wasn't the whole point for you to like get this for money for something? But she's like, oh, I'll just take it. Because he is also pretending, he's playing really dumb at this point too. Because she's like, what is this for? And he's just like, I don't know what any of this is. Like and I'm like, well, what do you mean if this was a job? Like, it was very suspicious for me.
Yeah. Looking back now, but then I also like, how he acted is how I would also be if I was like, if I saw a safe inside of a big old thing, I'd be like, oh yeah, there's gonna be fuck tons of money in here. And then I open it and it's just a fucking crusty box with a weird little box inside of it. I'd be like, what the hell?
Yeah.
But clearly it is worth something if somebody's gone through all the trouble of putting it
just to
inside
like lock
multiple
it away.
Boxes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I kind of understood where he was at that point. Well, and I know now that he was acting, but at the time I was like, oh, that's exactly how I would react to. I'd be pissed that there's not stacks of gold or something.
Yeah.
Where's my gold nugget?
Well,
bricks.
It depends though, because I don't know essentially if they were there to like be thieves or collect something for payment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I thought, I thought they were gonna buy it and then sell, or steal it and then sell it.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
On the like market.
On the dark web.
Yeah.
On the eBay.
Mm-hmm.
Highest bidder. And so we do cut to our lover boys, Mr. Colin and Matt, right?
Yeah.
And they're in bed and they're chilling.
Guessing little paragraphs.
Mm-hmm.
He's reading.
He's reading to him, that's right.
Which is, and he says Shelley, and he says Percy Shelley, and then it was Mary, which was Percy's husband, or wife. And then Lord Byron was also a good friend of theirs.
Gotcha.
So, which they all had, I think, similar writing styles because of that.
Gotcha.
Which was why I think he got them all confused.
And I was like, I don't read, so I don't know any of that. And so that's whenever
there's actually a really good like kind of horror film, horror-esque film. I think it is on Shudder.
Is it? Shout out Shudder, sponsor us.
About Mary Shelley.
Okay.
And it's really like good like psychological. Now
she created Frankenstein, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's a really good. I don't believe it is the true. It has some artistic liberties, obviously, but it's a very good depiction of mental deterioration.
Oh, like
I thought it was
like
kind of
like Deborah Logan.
Yes, and or the Babadook.
Okay, yeah. I can see that.
Almost like that. I think
the Babadook. Shout out,
icon,
Allie.
Yep,
he's a gay Allie.
He is.
And so,
or they are.
They them.
Yes, they are non-binary.
Trying to respect, bro. We gotta respect pronouns. And so that's whenever we do have Miss Riley coming home, and her brother is not happy about it because obviously it seems like she is drunk, isn't she?
Yeah. And I couldn't tell why she she was recovering from.
Yeah, that's true.
I couldn't tell if it was alcohol because when you say
heroin.
sober, it's for all
could be all kinds of things.
Yeah. And so when Trevor handed her the flask, I was like, is she supposed to be drinking that?
Yeah.
And then whenever she smiled, like right before it, I was like, oh no,
she's not.
But then we find out later it's pills in particular are her vice of choice.
But also too, we know that, drinking doesn't help with any type of addiction to anything, because once you have a little bit of alcohol,
then you're like, I can't do anything.
Yeah. Because you lose your control and your inhibitions come out, and then you just think, I'll just have one, and then I'll have two, and then I'll get high.
Stuck in my head.
And then but
what's her name? Natasha Bedingfield.
Oh yeah. Feel the rain on your skin. No one. Unwritten. I was like, what's the name of that song? And so we do have them getting into this huge argument, and he ends up kicking her out because also too she is just like at this point just asking for it, literally asking and begging for it, and it's really sad to see.
It was.
Because
like, like and it was like, get the fuck out. And
yeah,
it was good.
Even
acting.
you feel it,
from
as the whole character,
as
a witness watching.
Yeah, I was like, oh damn, this is sad.
Because I see both of their parts. Like I see that because addiction is a disease, and she's kind of at that moment where she's in the clutches of her disease, and it really has control over right now.
Yeah.
So like this person can be better than this, but this is where they're at right now.
Yeah.
But also him just having to put up with it. Like you get to a certain point as well, no matter how much you love someone, where you're just like, it's just too much.
Clearly,
I can't deal with you right now. Yeah. You can't help yourself, so how can I help you?
Yeah. I'm doing all that I can, and it's not doing anything.
Yeah.
It's really sad.
Yeah. And so she's like, she does leave.
And she runs into Colin on the way down, and he tries to tell her to stay, but of course she says, no. And so then she gets to her car and busts her side mirror for no good reason, which, damn, I was like, girl, come on.
I thought that was so unnecessary.
I was like, you were already broke, and now do you know how much?
Breaking your mirror.
Yeah. I was like, side mirrors aren't cheap to replace like that. That's why you see cars driving around all the time with them flopping off, because they're like
of duct tape holding it on.
Because it costs some money to do that. And I was like, I've
been there 3 cars ago.
You just had it.
It yeah. And then I had like duct tape it. Had used duct tape, and it kind of stuck on for a little while. Until eventually it had to go. It couldn't withstand it anymore. Yeah.
Did it fly off
and
while
then,
you were driving?
I think in pieces. Yeah, like like at one point a little bit of it came off, and then I was like, oh fuck, and then another part came off, and then I was like, okay, and then finally it just came to like a little piece just being there. So yeah. Yeah. But then the whole car ended up having to go. So yeah. One way or another. And so we do have her going to she's putting all her shit in her car, and she ends up finding she opens the truck and she finds that little pill like box. It's not a box. What is like a little, it looks like a jewelry case, like a little jewelry case.
Well,
thing.
I think it's a
pill cushion.
It almost looks like a pill case.
Okay.
Which like I mean, like people have those all the time.
But like ornate.
And they're fancy pill cases for like your everyday prescriptions.
Gotcha.
But she was just using them for bad ones.
For drugs.
And so I was like, yay, she dumped him out. And then as I was finishing typing that, I went,
she picked them back off the ground. Yeah.
Mind.
And then she takes like 3 or 4 of them. Yeah. And she, they're in her body. It's a happening. She ends up then going to the park. And going to it's a merry-go-round, right?
Yeah.
That's what those are called, yeah.
I think so.
And she ends up just sitting there. She's looking at the box, and she is she moving it around at this point? Yeah, she's configuring it.
This is where she realizes that the corners can change, and it was giving very Rubik's Cube in this moment for some reason, because of like the patterns weren't matching up, and I was like, oh.
That's right. Oh yeah, and she does get to the spot where it starts changing shape.
Because she puts her finger into this little hole.
That's right, which also was very scary.
I know, because that hole was so black.
Yeah, and I feel like it would like...
I thought something was going to bite her finger.
Slice it right off. Yeah. And that would be so painful. Yeah.
That would have been awesome.
The blade does end up coming out, but it just narrowly misses her. It doesn't stab her, which is already, we know what the fate is if you get stabbed with this blade that they set up at the beginning of the movie. So her brother does end up finding her because he...
And before that, we get
that's right. She has
spinning around.
She ends up feeling the effects of the drugs, and she like starts dreaming, essentially is what it seems like.
And we have the Weezer one, the Gasper,
I think is what it was called.
Is what they called. Yeah, and it says that blade was meant for you.
Yeah, which is really creepy.
If not you, bring us another. It didn't talk like that.
It does kind of sound a little those vibes though. And then that's whenever her brother does end up waking up out of like this really terrible dream. It
like
does.
A troll under a bridge. Like,
do it again.
Let me ask you a riddle.
And then you must pass. And then you may go.
You can pass. What is your favorite color? Blue. No, green.
Is that a riddle?
It's a reference to Monty Python.
Oh, I've never seen that either. What is that?
Monty Python?
What is that?
Monty Python and the Holy Grail specifically.
Okay.
But Monty Python is like, they're like a comedy troupe.
Oh,
British comedy troupe. And then the Holy Grail was their little movie and the spoof on like King Arthur and stuff.
Okay. Gotcha. Like a scary movie?
Yeah,
like a
kind
parody?
Of. Yeah, it's very, very deadpan, like dry comedy. And it's really dumb, and I love it. I grew up watching it. And my dad always had he had Spam-A-Lot, which is their like, instead of Camelot.
Oh, okay.
It's Spam-A-Lot.
Like Spam?
Like Spam.
Spam, okay.
Yes.
My dad loves Spam.
I found some vegan Spam in H-E-B the other day. I bought it.
I feel like it's like a generational thing, like a lot of, like that's what people used to eat back in the day. Yeah, Spam.
It's also...
I know in Hawaii it's really popular.
It's a large part of Hawaiian food. It's also a big, like has a pretty big holding in Korean food. Yeah.
I can see that.
So I obviously went vegetarian pretty young, so I never really got to eat a whole bunch of Spam.
Yeah.
Or have it like prepared in a good way, that more than just like a Spam sandwich.
I want a Spam cake.
Spam cake.
All Spam.
Oh,
molded into a cake.
Cake.
Like gelatinous, like shaking like Jell-O. Yeah. And so I don't even know if that it would shake. I think it's so thick.
Yeah, I think it would be pretty
meaty. And so we do have
I'm like on the sound
Matt
effects
waking
today.
up. He is out of like a sweaty dream kind of simultaneously as she's having her dream.
Yeah, because the chains, like,
that's right.
whenever the Gasper was there, it like
Mm-hmm.
rubs the circle on the box basically, and then this like insignia
Burns on
opens
her chest. That's right.
And then all of a sudden that like black hole that's on the box
Opens up into a void in her,
and then chains go and they come out and then they go into her brother.
That's right.
But
that was really cool scene.
Yeah, it was.
And so her brother wakes up, and that's whenever he's like, I need to go find Riley. And so he does find, that park must be really close.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's like across the street.
Yeah, I think because he was like, well, let me go see where her car was parked.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because he knew like where she had last been, and found that, and then was like, I think it was right across from where her car was parked.
Yeah.
And so once he saw that she wasn't there, he looked up and she was on the merry-go-round, passed out.
As one does when they're on the drugs.
Yep.
And so that's whenever he tries to get to her, and he's like, oh, fuck, how many did you take? And he's like, I guess trying to get her to, he's got her like, you know, what you do to like try to get people to like cough up or spit up, throw up. But as he's moving stuff around, he ends up getting the box and he stabs himself on the box. And he throws it out of the way.
Immediately. He's just like, whoa.
Yeah, as one does. And he's removing her from the merry-go-round to like where the restrooms are, and that's whenever she's kind of coming to even more. The blood on the box is getting sucked up by the box itself, kind of like how the blood got sucked up on the floors in the original.
And we see that the box is changing on its own, which was kind of interesting too, that it was like bloop, 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 bloop.
And we have what's his face going into the restroom.
Yeah. And he starts getting disoriented at this point. He's, washing his hand, and then he moves away. And as he's trying to like turn back around, everything's kind of like boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
And then
at this point, you already know what's going to happen.
Yeah. And he looks into his reflection in the mirror. It's just staring at him, not moving as he is, which was like, that's never a good sign.
That's eerie.
Yep.
Yeah.
The blood that he just washed down the sink starts bubbling up in it. And then the walls open up to the tunnel. I thought it was going to happen here.
Oh, what I was talking about? Sorry.
I was expecting it. And then
when I rewatched it too, I was like, oh, I might have reimagined that myself. But almost like that scene. Yeah. And later on.
But then whenever I was a little let down that we didn't get to see how he died.
Same. I was really disappointed. I was really looking forward to seeing like what they would do to him. But maybe because they were trying to save that for the later half of the movie when everything else is happening.
I think it also maybe gives us a somewhat hope that she will be able to successfully resurrect him.
That's true. Because if we saw something more finite, it wouldn't have that same story effect.
At one point, Pinhead says, though, your brother had an exquisite end.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And
I think it was that exact wordage.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, well, this motherfucker's dead.
Yeah.
We ain't getting him back. And so whenever she made that call at the end too, I was like, probably a good choice, because I don't trust.
Which is really sad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it is her fault.
Yeah.
Everything is essentially her fault. Because then I was thinking,
it's really Trevor's fault.
But
he put it into her hands.
He did. But also too, if she also met Trevor, like she put herself in the situation to be in Trevor's life.
That's true.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's still technically her fault.
Yeah.
She killed her brother.
She did. She's a murderer.
Homicide. And so double homicide.
Arrest her right now.
So that's whenever we do see that we don't see, actually, sorry, he does get murdered axe taken away because she hears him screaming, and then that's whenever she goes in to look for him, but he's not there anymore.
Yeah.
It happens very fast. And then you hear him screaming, but it gets cut off like mid like him screaming.
Yeah.
And
it was like he got sucked up into the box.
And we do have the ambulance showing up now. They're talking to her. We have the cops talking to her, and we find out, that Matt is missing. Everybody is now aware. Colin aware. Nora is awake. They're all talking about it, and that's whenever she was Colin, I guess, went to go search for him. And whenever he comes back, she's like telling them like, he's been missing since he touched this box. And they're like, what? You never even mentioned that box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was, I mean, I understand she was probably not trying to divulge that to the police.
And she was still also
because then they're gonna
under
be like,
the effects of the drugs and all that.
True,
Yeah.
yeah.
She didn't know what she was. She thought she was hallucinating because of drugs.
Yeah.
Essentially. Yeah.
That's true. And then they're being, I mean, yeah, basically, I suppose I would probably also react this way, be like, that's what the hell, what does this box have to do with anything kind of thing?
You sound crazy.
Yeah.
This is important. Someone we love is missing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And whenever, I understand Colin being as upset as he is, like his partner's missing and she was on drugs, like,
yeah,
she missed it. And he
it
was like,
doesn't look good for her right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially when she's the last person to have been around when it's just to witness him alive, and she can't even recall because she was so fucked up.
Yeah, which is, it's really sad. But then she leaves. She's going over to Trevor's. This is where we get Trevor's booty.
Trevor booty.
He got a booty. And then the way that
she jumps on him.
Yeah, and the way that he like, just
accepts it and is just like, yeah, let's do it.
And then like closes the door, like holding her. That was really hot.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can see that. I also thought it was just like really like
close the door.
But everybody has their coping mechanisms. Like my brother's missing. I'm horny.
Yeah.
Like
that's true.
But I think she was just, trying to distract herself to not think about that. But
also, if
doesn't quite. He was very hot.
I would
with
also,
his booty out.
Yeah.
And then it was very sad because for her, unfortunately, she's having sex with him. But she ends up seeing the Chatterer.
So scary.
Another Cenobite in the middle of their sexual intercourse. And so you don't like his design at all or anything? You think he looks cheap?
I thought the original Chatterer looked better.
Yeah.
I really did.
The original Chatterer was a lot like, I think it's because too, for some reason, I think it would have been scarier as well if they were more flesh colored.
Yeah, instead of
making
pallid,
them like greens and grayish blues.
They felt alien-esque.
Yeah, that's true. As opposed to more of humans that were then transformed into these creatures.
And then there was one point where whenever they had locked him out, like they, locked that house up and they were walking up the steps, one of them did have really flesh-colored feet. And so then I was like, wait, what? Like one was significantly more pink
than the others. Which I think was the one, wasn't it, that ended up running in and chasing her and then got caught?
Yeah. Probably.
Yeah.
That one reminded me of the nurses
when it was like
from
ripping
Silent
apart
Hill.
and stuff, it looked like, I see that.
The little
very Silent Hill vibes.
That was cool. I did like when it was like
yeah.
That was cool. I was like, shit, that's scary.
It
like
just
if that
came
happened
to life
because
it was moving so like it couldn't see anything.
Its arms were like
tied back.
Yeah, behind its body, and then it was like psych.
Here I am in full form.
But its arms were kind of useless. They were just
That is scary though.
Yeah.
That is very
it's like a flailing
looking
thing coming at you. And
Makes
I
me
loved the way
shout.
whenever it's put my hands up and shout. Sorry, I was singing the song with you.
Oh yeah.
But whenever his face got stuck in between two and the skin peeled off.
I thought that was really cool. Or then even later on, I think at some point, like his flesh starts ripping on his foot or heel area. I thought it was pretty nice.
That was cool too.
And so we have them talking after this whole whatever happens, because then she's like, I'm hallucinating, is it the drugs, is it not? But it shouldn't be because I'm not even on the drugs anymore.
Yeah, like I should be off of it by now. And it's the same one she's always taken. So
and so they end up looking like up some of the stuff that's been happening, and so they see that like they look up Mr. Voight, right, and the house and how their people went missing right before,
because she asks them, she's like find out who in the world owns this container. There has to be something.
That's right. Yeah.
Like who owns maybe not the container, who owns the warehouse. Like there's a name attached to this somewhere.
Yeah.
Find it so we can figure out who to even look into. And then that's how they find Serena. And they go and talk to her. And I was like, damn, 6 years did her dirty.
Yeah. Poor thing. She got cancer.
Yeah.
Her lungs are deteriorating inside of her body.
A lot older.
Yeah.
Aged.
She looks like someone who is definitely seen a lot of shit and who has kept a lot of dark secrets.
Yeah.
And that weighs that weighs a soul down and the body down. Yeah, for sure. And that's whenever they're talking about, or they're talking to Serena, and already even Trevor's kind of like, he's like being all coy and like shy, like to even like get up close to her.
Yeah, because now it's like, and then I realize now, because she could recognize him and be like, what the fuck are you doing
Maybe
here?
she knows him as an accomplice or something to, what's his face, Mr.
Seen him around somewhere. But basically she ends up explaining to them, they were like, we found this in a shipping container, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, it wasn't shipped in, it was locked up. That was the last thing that I handled with Mr. Roland Voight's estate.
Yeah.
And it's, like, that's where it needs to be. Like, why are you even talking about it? And then she whips it out and she's like, that ended his life and it will end yours too.
Yeah.
Put it back.
And she's even saying though too that Voight was a dangerous man and all this stuff. And she says something about the Cenobites. She's like, some call them angels or something like that.
Yeah, angels he called them. And
that's what it
says,
is.
You think a devil would know a devil.
And so that's whenever I think Trevor is like, I'm going to go get some water for her.
Yeah. And it was so interesting how she said, even whenever she pulled it out, she goes, who opened this? And she goes, that's not the first configuration. Yeah. Someone else has already tampered with this. So what the fuck's going on here? Yeah. And then that was when she was like, you see them too. And it was like, oh. Yeah. She knows.
She knows about the effects and everything. I'm sure she was there on the side just fucking watching what was happening. Yeah. With that first boy from the beginning. Or if not, partook in watching or helping
him get to that
the
point.
Other bodies. Yeah. Because you have to go through so many 6 configurations, right? Or 7. Yeah. And so that's whenever we do have Trevor leaving. Riley's talking to her a little bit more, and Miss Serena wants to take the box from her and like try to
dispose of it.
She just wants to remove this burden from from Riley. But Riley, for some reason, is like fighting the fuck out of her. Yeah. And like trying to get it back from her.
I'm guessing again it has to be that like some sort of pull. But also now her brother,
my precious,
is in on it. Yeah. Yeah. And so I'm sure she's trying to find a way to
save the
back.
brother. Yeah. Yeah. And so that's whenever Miss Serena gets stabbed, unfortunately.
Yep. And then they basically, Trevor comes back and they really just leave her.
That's right. Yeah.
They're just like, okay, well,
after
bye.
She's been stabbed.
Yep. And they throw it in the back seat as they're driving off, and we can see it moving in the back seat underneath her.
In her bag.
Jacket. Yeah.
Or it's a jacket. My bad. Yeah.
I don't know what it was.
It was nothing, but it was moving.
And then this is where we see Serena getting pushed along in her wheelchair, and we see the walls opening. And then, of course, the nurses leave her to go they're going to find a doctor, but, she's left alone now. Yeah. And we're seeing them come out now. We're seeing one in the background. She gets up without her breathing tank.
Which is so, oh my God, it's funny that she's like having, it's not funny, sorry, it's ironic that we have her having a lung disease, cancer, whatever going on, but then we have the Wheezer coming out for her. It's almost like they were making fun of her. Yeah. Taunting her in a way.
Yeah. And then what was it? The Weeper as well was also there, and all of them had a sort of raspy breath. They were like,
it's really creepy.
Yeah.
That's something to me that would give me nightmares.
Yeah.
And so that's whenever
the one weeping things for some reason freak me out.
Oh, really?
Like, like whenever it's just a ghost, it's like, because then they always turn around and then they're like,
really scary, really scary. Yeah. It's also just like, the way they're almost more scary than like a possessed or demonic-y
one that's like openly attacking you because they have some sort of intense feeling.
Well, because you usually, when something is crying or acting like that, you lean in a little closer to figure out what's going on with it, and then it's just like rawr. Yeah. So we poor thing is running through the halls at this point of the hospital, but it's not the hospital, it's like the otherworldly place that happens whenever we mess with the Cenobites. And she's not cornered, but basically in the center of like all these hallways, and from each side she's got a Cenobite coming after her.
They are surrounding her. And as she ran through, she passed whenever that first Cenobite came in and went to the other man in the corner rather than her. And she walked out. There's that sort of pillar that had.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Like, I guess it looked like skin screens,
Yeah.
like stretched skin, but it reminded me of the pillar at the beginning that had
Of
like
the
the
original.
ears and stuff. Yeah.
Very torturous, like dungeon chamber
Yeah.
area. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I feel like that's maybe a little nod to that. But yeah, this was where I was like, their costuming, it just isn't as good.
Mm-hmm.
And then the save your breath for screaming.
Yeah.
That was a pretty cheap line, in my opinion. Also, they all had pins in them now.
At
like
certain
every
places of
single
their
one.
body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were like pearl-esque tops.
Yeah.
Which I
There were, like,
love a pearl, but
pins of like sewing pins.
yeah, they
as
did look
opposed
like
to
sewing
like
pins.
the pinhead from the original that looked more like nails. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it just wasn't.
It feels like there were a lot of stylistic choices in this movie, like go substance over like beauty, I guess, over like, you know, for horror. But I do get what you mean. It does make them seem a little less scary.
Yeah,
and a little
more
less
ethereal.
Yeah, and more artsy as opposed to like something that's supposed to, you know,
I feel
really
like there was a way
me.
you could have done Pinhead in a, like, if you can, I'm just going to go back to Silent Hill a lot. If you can make Pyramid Head look chic, you can make Pinhead look chic without making them look like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Overall, though, I do think I really like it. Just maybe because of like the first ones, and you know what Cenobites are. The Cenobites from the first film also too, like for some reason to me in this one, it felt like the Cenobites were very much like in on enjoying making the people feel the pain. While like in the first one, it wasn't like the Cenobites were enjoying it. It was more like
this is their duty.
This is what we do. We're just performing a job. Yeah, this is it. We're neither here to like it or not.
Shit,
like, come on,
day.
get it done. All right, here you go.
I gotta clock out at 5. Gotta get home, feed my family.
Literally, that's what it gave. And this one's very seen much like they were enjoying torturing them. So I don't know. It was just a little different. Like you said, when she was just like, it did seem a bit corny when she was like, save your breath for screams. Yeah. But so obviously Serena's taken out. She's dead.
Yep.
And so what happens after that?
This is where Riley is looking more into Voight.
That's right.
And then Trevor comes back up. He called and we find out that Serena is now gone too. And basically Riley is like, we have to go to his estate. We need to get there right now. And like, what's his face tried to
figure out what's going on. Yeah.
Trevor tries to toss out the box. And she stops him, and then she goes to his estate.
Yeah, which we do drive up to, and we see that the house is in like a cage.
Yep.
Yeah, which is really cool looking.
It is. The gate magically opens for her too.
That's true.
And I was like, that's sketch.
That's already sketchy. Because it should be locked.
Yeah.
Or
the
not
gate's
working.
Like, welcome in, which is no.
Which means something was already waiting for her.
That's like Haunting of Hill House, The Haunting. You know, it's like, welcome. It's drawing you in to then trap you.
Very much so.
That's what it felt
like. You're
like.
never leaving ever again.
Yeah.
And so we do have her going into she gets up, she gets in through the house because there's like a little
perfect little square.
Yeah, leading into like a kitchen.
Lines up with a very, small window above a kitchen. Yeah.
It gives very like, you know how like in big rich people houses, there's like the kitchen and then there's like a servant's kitchen. That's quarters. Yeah. That's what it was looking like. Yeah.
Yes. It did very much look like that. And yeah. And
so she's walking and tiptoeing through the house, not necessarily being the quietest.
No. I mean, she assumes the house is abandoned.
That's true. And she ends up making it into the office.
Museum room.
Oh, museum. That's right. We're in the beginning. Yeah. Do we see that someone's watching her at this point?
No, I don't think you know yet.
Yeah, that's true. And so she does find the breaker box. That's right. And she starts finding out like what switches work the lights and how the switches make the cage go up and down and like shutting of the door areas. Yeah.
And then makes the sky roof thing move too, which all had that like same cubic kind of configuration on everything, which was like, man's really leaned into this.
Box puzzle.
But it was cool looking. It was dope.
It was.
But yeah, at first I was like, this place shouldn't still have electricity.
Yeah, that's
but
what I was also
it
thinking
makes
as well.
more sense that Voight's alive.
Yeah.
But
Still
I didn't
living
know
there.
that yet.
Also, I really like the sound that like things make, like machinery makes when it's like opening and closing, and I really like the sounds it was making. But we do have her finding the office, and she goes in and she sees there's like pictures and depictions of Cenobites all over the walls.
Yep.
We see like kind of like when a detective has like things placed together and they're trying to solve a mystery almost. And
Yeah.
he was, I guess, very much so trying to figure out like to get, you know, his prize, his whatever he wanted from the box and the Cenobites. And she ends up finding looks more like a manual almost, essentially, with like a box on the little, you know, display head of it.
Yeah.
The
little notebook.
And we learn about the box and apparently how like
all the stages.
There's all these stages. Did you write them down?
I did.
Yay.
Okay, so the first stage is lament, which is life. We have lore, which is knowledge. That's the second. Laudorant, which is love, and that's the third. Liminal, sensation, fourth, which is what we find out later that
what's his name asked for.
Chose.
Yeah.
Yes. But it was not the kinds of sensations he was wanting.
Yeah.
Turns out he wasn't ready for hardcore shit.
Yeah. He thought he was.
Yes, and nope. And then we had Lazarus, which was resurrection, which is like, oh, resurrection. This is where we're getting her wanting to get her brother back. Yeah. And that's the fifth. And then lastly, the sixth is Leviathan, and that is power. Which is what we then find out Voight was actually after.
Not
his true
liminal.
Sensation, all he's ever sought after
Craved
was
love,
more power.
Which is power, yeah.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
And once you reach the Leviathan configuration, you are granted an audience with God.
And if you choose the Leviathan, the power one, you become a Cenobite.
Apparently.
Yeah. Which I guess that's what power means, is you become one of them.
Now, do you think that he became the new Chatterer? Because Chatterer was destroyed.
Oh, yeah, maybe. And that's why they opened up his mouth at the end.
Yeah.
That could be why.
That's what I thought, is that like they have to often maybe regenerate. And maybe that's why there's different
iterations.
Yeah. And like looks of them kind of thing. Possibly.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. I thought he was maybe being made into Chatterer when they ripped away his mouth like that, and then like really showed the bloody teeth. Or he could just be
his own like version of whatever his Cenobite is.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we do have her learning all of that, getting all this information, and that's whenever we do have her going into, oh yeah, she hears her name.
Yeah.
And
Matt's
it's
voice.
from Matt's voice. Yeah. And she ends up searching through the house, and she ends up coming through, she already goes through the dungeon, right? She goes to the sex dungeon area.
Because she hears him scream, and then that's when she finds him in the sex dungeon basement thing. And she goes and hugs him, and I was like, that's clearly not Matt.
And he's talking to her, and he's being like, bring me back, you have to bring me back. And she ends up like, we see the backside of him, and he's very Brother Frank style, and like all bloodied and like no skin, like just organs. And she touches him, and he's all oozy.
Ew.
Oh, and she sees his reflection, and that's when she notices that he's all like fucking disgusting looking.
And then conveniently in pops in
Colin, Nora, and Trevor. Nora.
We need
Nora.
we need Robert in here to say Nora.
Nora.
He's so good at it.
Nar. I can't even say it. No, yeah.
I didn't like really think that was an actual way that
people said.
Yeah,
something.
and then I realized one of the other podcasts that I really listen to a lot is called Kawabana, and it's true Japanese scary stories from around the internet. True being like they're not.
Yeah.
True. But it is voiced by Tara A. Devlin, and she's Australian and spent some time in Japan. Yeah. But then she would, as she reads the stories, there's some where I'm like, oh.
Where she really says no, but it sounds like nar.
Yeah, and I'm like,
nar.
Or there's other words that have like that same like, basically the way that it's pronounced.
Like
still
north. I don't know.
It's something like where I think it's like an O kind of ending sound, but then an R ends up on it.
Okay, gotcha.
Too. And I was like, oh wow, that is okay. It's like legit.
Yeah,
Damn.
I can see it.
Nar.
We've been watching a lot of housewives, but like of South Africa.
Oh.
Yeah, there's one.
Housewives of South Africa?
There's one for Durban and one for Johannesburg.
Wow.
And their accents are so cool. And so there's one, and she kind of talks like that. Her name's Cristal. And it's the crystal, but they're like Cristal. Yeah. And
that's a very like
she ends up putting like a
Russian-esque
R-ish like thing to the end of things too. Yeah. But back into the movie. Where do
you watch that though? Sorry,
it's on.
I need to know now.
It's on Tubi.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
For free.
Yeah, it is, and it's really, honestly, really entertaining.
Real Housewives of South. I mean, all Real Housewives.
It's very entertaining. And so we do have she ends up getting surprised by her friends and Trevor, and they're kind of like, what's happening, what's going on, and she's like, did you hear Matt, was he screaming? And they're like, we didn't hear anything. We met each other up and we decided to come find you. And so that's whenever, which is so convenient, right, that they all just ended up being there together. She's talking to Colin because Colin wants to talk to her and have a little private moment, and Trevor and Nora go out to like a little parlor area, and they end up like, he's messing with switches and
he's playing bartender.
Yeah.
And then he says he's gonna go find a bathroom, and then Nora comes and messes with the switches.
And also even more red flag though too, because he's like, I need a drink, what's your poison? And she's like, we try not to drink in front of Riley, which is already like this dude, which I mean, he obviously doesn't care because he already got her drunk,
Yeah.
So yeah, but that's whenever she is messing with the switches, and she ends up finding a trap door that opens up to the hallway, and for some reason she decides to go in there.
Yeah,
which I wouldn't have.
My immediate reaction was, nice, a secret door.
I mean, it's cool, but I wouldn't go in there alone as well.
Yeah, once I looked in, like I would have poked my head in first and then saw that this looks really dark and dingy and scary, and I would have been like, okay, someone else come explore this with me. But
it gives very much. I remember this one time I was in Ohio visiting my family. We went to this one church, and I was with my cousins, and I guess the kids at that church wanted to show us that they had this basement, but like the basement had like tunnels. There was tunnels underneath this area because back, I think it was mining. I don't know what it was, but there was the basement, right? And it's already dark in the basement area, and it's like also the floor wasn't.
This
like
is barbarian.
Yeah, the floor wasn't even like floor. It was like half concrete, but then like a lot of it was just dirt, like unfinished. And then there was like stairs, and then like another opening to like just like where I guess tunnels started, and like not covered up or anything, like just open. And so then they were like, it was kind of like, ooh, you go further, and we would like someone take 2 steps down. Oh, I bet you won't go 3, and someone was like, oh, I'll go 3, until I only went like 4 steps, and it's so dark that you couldn't see anything, and we didn't even have flashlights or anything, so it's pitch black down there. And I think one kid got all the way down, and then like obviously someone was like, brah, and everybody screaming. We all ran up, like like little kids running, But I remember that vividly. Like it was really scary, but that's what it gives.
That is that's
kind of yeah.
You could have booped. You could have been booped.
That's also a memory that like.
What the fuck? That's bizarre.
I kind of locked that away, I guess.
What if that was a cult too, and they were trying to?
I never thought about it. I've always only thought of it at very like naive, I guess. But you're right.
Up.
That does seem very cultish, doesn't it? Yeah.
I want to go explore these tunnels right now. Call them. Find them.
That was so long ago. I don't even know where that would have been. I just know it was somewhere up over there in Ohio.
That's bizarre. That's so cool. Where was Barbarian?
It was in Chicago.
Oh, Chicago.
Detroit or one of those.
Detroit. Michigan. It was in Detroit.
Yeah, it was Detroit. Yeah.
Detroit's got a real bad high crime rate. I think it has one of the worst crime rates in America.
I think because of like the per capita kind of thing, like it's a whole version of like, because like there's like so much people like in one spot, essentially, not necessarily that like, how all that works.
Belmead also has one of the highest ones.
Yeah, exactly.
In the top 10. actually, of the United States.
Yeah. Well,
but not for violent crime, right? Just for overall crime.
I don't know, honestly.
It's definitely in the top 10 on some list.
Organized crime. You heard it here, folks.
Bill Meade.
Go there. Take your family. Bring your children. It's a great place. Raise them all.
Raise them all.
Gotta catch them.
Bill Meade, Mom.
Meth head man. Oh, I'm just saying. And so that's whenever we do end up having what happens, Caitlin? I get so distracted so easily.
They are basically she goes into the secret door. And then basically, though, we go back to, as Nora's going into there, we find that Riley is explaining to Colin that the final configuration is granted passage to another realm, and that there's a possibility to resurrect Matt. That resurrection was one of the options there, basically. And then Colin's like, yeah, no.
This all sounds fucking crazy.
Yeah, and he's like, I'm not questioning you, I'm questioning this, basically. Yeah. But then this is where we flash back to Nora walking into that tunnel alone, and of course, the door slams behind her.
Which is so scary.
And
so scary for Nora.
Then we flash back to Colin and Riley, and she's saying it marks a sacrifice, and then they come to collect. Yeah. And then we flash back to Nora, but we see someone else is in the corner.
And he looks so creepy. He looks very creepy. Yeah, because that's Riley looks for it, and she's like, I don't have it. So obviously, Mr., who we don't necessarily see at this point and know that it's him, but we do know it's him, essentially, Mr. Voight. And he runs up on fucking Nora and stabs her in the back.
With the box.
Which gotta hurt.
Yup.
Yeah.
Yeah, right between the shoulder blades. And I was like, shit, well, someone's been living there all along in the walls.
Yeah.
And of course, she's disoriented, being affected by the poison.
Oh, yeah. And she's trying to, she's banging on the wall. She's screaming for help. And finally, because even Trevor can hear her, and he hears her screaming. They all can hear her at this point.
And he's trying all the switches, but clearly not the correct one.
Yeah.
Because he knows. But she ends up running through and busts into the dungeon.
Yeah.
The walls all lead there. Yeah. I suppose. But as she does get out, she's trying to say there's a man in the walls. Yeah. There's a man in the walls.
And even Trevor's she's incoherent. She's not making any sense.
Yeah.
Whenever they're like, what'd she say? And I'm just like, oh my God. And so that's whenever, even then it's just okay, there's something's going on with Trevor. And
that was the recreation-esque kind of right there was where he charged down the thing, which was creepy
came towards her
with his silhouette.
But she is also as well been stabbed because we do see that Colin takes it out of her back, which is probably, I don't know if it was.
You're not ever supposed to remove something that's been stabbed.
We should have just left it, honestly, because what if leaving it would have meant they wouldn't have come.
What if walk around with it in your back for the rest of your life?
Because essentially they take it all, and after it stabs someone, it starts changing. What if they only come when the thing starts changing?
That's true.
So if they could have just left it in, they could have maybe gotten her to a hospital.
Yeah.
Although she still would have died.
Yeah.
Because they come regardless once it comes out. But
it wouldn't have come out there. It was pretty cool, though. They load her up into the van, and we see the street start opening up.
Oh, yeah.
Which
is really cool.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
They're trying to get away, and then we do see that they're arguing. They're getting lost. At this point, I don't know if it's because What's-His-Face is genuinely lost, or the streets are changing because of the box changing and the labyrinth whole thing, or if Trevor is deliberately trying to just get them to go in circles. Yeah.
And I'm not sure either. But
it's all of the above.
I will say that this was probably my favorite scene. Specifically the van morphing. Not necessarily cool. What ensues afterwards. I did like what happens between Pinhead and Nora.
Yeah.
But the van morphing was cool. I was
it's elongating, and she's just disoriented, and they're getting really far.
Yeah,
up.
You see the whole back seat, the seat of the van, you see them there, and then all of a sudden she's just in this tunnel. Yeah. That was neat. I was okay, that was cool. I really enjoyed that part. And then this is where we get Chatterer pops up.
Yeah, sure does. Along with the really weird face mask dude who doesn't have a brain or anything. It's just a face.
Oh, yeah.
The skin.
It's just the skin.
Yeah.
Reminds me of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
What was that person's name? Oh, that was just the skin. Moisturize me. I can't remember.
I don't know. But I think I
He's
know the
just
guy
like-
you're talking about. Right? You're talking about the dude who played him?
No.
Oh.
Doctor Who moisturize me.
Who? Doctor Who in the Multiverse of Madness.
This.
That's scary. It looks like the bottom of a stingray, starfish type of situation.
Lady Cassandra.
That's its name.
Mm-hmm.
That a woman?
Yes. She was so obsessed with beauty and just kept doing all these things, getting all of these plastic surgery until she ended up as this, like,
Just becoming skin?
just skin
Oh my gosh.
with her little face on it.
That's cool.
Isn't
She
it?
looks like a tortilla with some
Moisturize
stickers
me.
on her.
She's really funny.
Oh, really? I've never seen Doctor Who, but I
Oh.
know the show that you're talking about.
And so she would say moisturize me because like her skin would get dry.
That makes sense.
Moisturize me.
And she can't do it herself.
Yeah, because she's just a little skin sheet.
That's so scary. That would be something in my dreams.
Yes.
But so I'd use her as a blanket.
Mm.
For real. And so that's whenever we do have Miss Thing being in the labyrinth, maze, whatever you want to call it, and Pinhead pops up on the other side of her, and she starts scrolling up towards her, and that's whenever she ends up getting Nora almost wants to like run away, but she doesn't really have the chance because she's blocked in by Cenobites from both sides. And that's whenever she gets whatever
The
chains stuck in her and suspended, which
Yeah.
was really gnarly because they do her dirty.
Yeah, they got her on one on either shoulder, on the backs of both of her heels, and then one in her stomach to kind of put her into this like C position.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was, yeah. And then I did like this scene where she starts saying, "Our Father who art in
She starts trying
heaven."
to pray.
And then Pinhead says, "What is it you pray for?" And she says, "Salvation." And he said, "What would it feel like? A joyful note without change, without end, heaven? There's no music in that." And I was like, damn. And then he stabs her through her vocal cord, which that shot was, no, I didn't like it.
How it went
kinda
through?
cheap.
I liked it.
Well,
And then it's just like her.
you're just in her little throat.
I
was
thought
like,
it was cool.
it felt Osmosis Jones,
Oh,
which I did like that movie.
I haven't seen that movie in a while, but I know. Yeah. That was a good movie.
It was.
Yeah. I liked Osmosis Jones.
But
It had, what's his name in it?
Robin Williams.
And was it Robin Williams?
Was it?
I thought it was the other dude, Bill Murray.
Bill Murray. It
Yeah.
was Bill Murray.
Yeah.
I almost said Brendan Fraser.
No. No.
Osmosis Jones.
But
And
yeah.
who played the voice of Osmosis Jones?
It was someone popular.
Chris Rock.
Chris Rock, yeah.
Lawrence Fishburne was in there as well.
Oh yeah, I think I remember
Thrax.
his voice. Yes. And so that's whenever
Molly
she's-
Shannon was in there too.
Oh, was she really? She ends up getting
Fun.
really tortured, to be honest, and
does.
that's whenever she gets murdered, and Riley sees kind of in the back of the rearview mirror that something's happening to her, but as soon as she does notice, that's whenever, you know, yoink, she gets pulled apart. There's blood in the back of the van. They end up crashing, and Nora's gone,
Yeah.
and they're all freaking out because
Also, you
Nora's
think
gone.
that they were eating her blood because the Chatterer went under her,
It could be.
and the blood was following on Chatterer's face.
Maybe.
They like feed on that too. I
Yeah.
don't know. Or maybe they were just
Well, that's
like,
what it is.
enjoying
They
the
are
blood.
feeding them. They're sucking their blood. It's essentially what Frank was doing to the men.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what they do.
Are they just trying to regenerate themselves? Are they trying to break out?
I think for them it's just feeding.
True.
Yeah. And so 'cause they're kind of like hellhounds.
Yeah.
Hellbound heart, hellhound.
Ah.
And so that's whenever they're like, I guess Colin still is trying to rationalize everything. And I guess he thinks Nora got dejected from the vehicle because he's just like calling her out and like looking for her. But obviously she got taken by the Cenobites. And that's whenever they're kind of arguing, Trevor and what's his face, Colin, trying to like figure out their next step. But Miss Thing takes the box and runs off, and she's about to chunk it into like the river.
Yes. But Pinhead says, "Wait, not yet."
Yeah, she gets stopped by Pinhead, and she's like, "We have great plans for you," or something like that, or such sights set for you, which kind of is
We wish
reminiscent.
to see you proceed.
Which is reminiscent of what Pinhead and them were talking to what's her face in the first one.
Yeah, they have there's at one point
Miss Kirsty
that they say something about I think it's at the end that they say that line. Because earlier with Pinhead to Nora, that said there's so much more the body can be made to feel, and you'll feel it all before we are through. But I think I know exactly what line you're talking about, though.
And it's verbatim the word, if not like they rearranged.
I think it is the exact same line.
Yeah.
But here Pinhead is saying, like we wish to see you proceed.
Which also too, this is very much like she's cheating.
Yeah.
Because she's like basically not taking no for an answer.
Yeah.
And then ends up stabbing Riley.
Yeah, that's true. She does. Yeah, that's right. Because but then she says, you can bring 2 more. Yeah. Like you can bring more, even though it's your blood. And it was like, what? Is that how it works?
But now she's definitely like sealed in for sure. Like if she doesn't do anything, they're gonna come for her because her blood is on it.
Yeah, that's
she was
true.
just about to get away. Like
she was just making a deal.
She was about to just get away. Yeah. So yeah.
And whenever Pinhead is explaining everything to them, because she was like, "What are you?" And Pinhead says, "Explorers of further regions of experience of sensations rim."
Yeah, I thought that was a funny way to say it.
Yeah.
And so that's whenever like fuck, she's stabbed, and we do have Trevor and Colin running up on her like kind of right after this happens. And so that's when she knows kind of what's going on essentially, but they end up going back to the house. But as soon as they like get to, I guess, wherever that front gate is that she drove through earlier, the Cenobites start pulling up, and everybody sees them at this point.
Yeah.
Even Colin. I
was like, oh, yeah. Now they can all see him.
Yeah. And so that's whenever Colin is having a freak out moment. He's just kind of like paralyzed, like a deer caught in headlights.
He trips and falls, and his fight or flight.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
He froze.
Yeah.
Fight, flight, or freeze. He froze.
It's true. And we do have Chatterer coming after Riley, and essentially it's only after Riley at this point.
Yeah.
But there's kind of like an altercation between them as like they have the gate in between them. He does end up biting the fuck out of Trevor, which is pretty gnarly.
He gets a good chunk of right above the elbow, like the lower part of the bicep.
Kind of like Squidward taking a bite of a Krabby Patty.
Yeah. Takes it out.
And she ends up being able to stab the Chatterer.
I thought she was going to stab Trevor. I was like,
yeah, because it does play it up like she's about to.
And then she's like, JK stabs Chatterer. I was like, oh, what? And then the way that Chatterer just backed up, it felt very like
burlesque.
Yeah. Like kind of a dance. It felt very dancey.
And so that's whenever we do have, I think even the priest, the Pinhead, she's even just like, well, I guess we gotta do those are the rules. And she's just like, okay. And it's just like, I'll allow it. And Chatterer ends up getting just like dismantled, ripped apart. Yeah.
Basically the chains go and then gone. And then they all run to the house, but all of the Cenobites are now converging on the house. So you can tell we're getting kind of to the peak of everything here now. And they are, I was like, yo, go in there, find the man on the walls and kill him. Yeah. But I didn't know that Trevor was in on it yet.
And so they end up getting inside. Riley turns the cage on, and it stops the whatchamacallits from the Cenobites from getting into the house. And so they do end up getting Trevor's arm into a tourniquet at this point with her belt. And that's whenever we do have Colin and Riley trying to figure shit out, and they think that what's his face is sleeping, Trevor, but he does get visited by Mr. Roland Voight. And that's when we do find out that like, okay, Trevor definitely does know Mr. Voight. He's been working for him this whole time.
And because Voight says, you were just supposed to feed the box and bring it back. And he says, well,
she fed it. She brought it back. Yeah.
She just was a step ahead of me. But no matter what, like, we're on track. We're one configuration away.
Yeah.
We're basically exactly where you need it to be. And Voight says, like, I need to get this out of me. So, like,
let's get the show on the road.
This. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's whenever Riley has a plan. She decides that they can stab another one. She's going to let one of them in and trap it, and then she'll stab it, and that's it. So I'm thinking like, okay, all right, whatever. Let's see if this works. So they end up opening the whatchamacallit.
And at first I was like, is it only Pinhead out there? Because Pinhead, at first they were all kind of standing whenever she tells Colin to check out there.
Yeah.
And she's like, are they still out there? And you see like 7 of them.
Yeah.
But then whenever they open the door this time, Riley's like, basically, it feels like a very like Western duel.
Yeah, it does.
Between her and Pinhead, because it's just only them and they're facing off. But then in the corner, we have the Gasper and the Weeper. That's what they're called.
And they're talking to her as she's saying, like, why don't you come, like, kill me, take me instead of, them. And they're like, we saved them. We set them free, and they're kind of laughing at her.
Release yourself, they say, which made me think of Ladies of New York. Oh. Frost yourself from Halloween's Guy in 10 Days.
It.
Hey, frost this.
And so we do have them finally coming towards her. So she Colin ends up pulling her in. They go in and they get one of them to go inside. But it's so stupid because it's in there with them. And they have a moment where she can just literally stab
they could have so easily
but she doesn't even get close enough until, like you said earlier, its little arms pop from the back of its springs.
Surprise!
And it starts running after them like so crazy, so maniacally.
Yeah. My notes were like, okay, damn, that was a little scary.
Yeah, it's frightening the way that it starts running after them and chasing them. And so she ends up running through the same museum area as earlier, but she fucking trips and she drops the fucking puzzle box.
Like a loser.
She's stupid. Yeah, literally. And that's whenever what's his face is Trevor, he ends up flipping the switch and it gets trapped in between one of the gate things.
It's like what's her face in Final Destination.
Yeah, very much
her head
that
in the elevator.
Yeah, and it looks pretty gnarly there, just stuck, and as it's like making like these like noises and trying to break free from the
and as its skin peeled off its head, it kind of reminded me of like in Lord of the Rings and the Two Towers.
Oh yeah.
Whenever they're creating all the orcs and stuff, and they're like birthing through that like little slime. That's
I know
what it
that
looked
very
like.
well. It did kind of look like that a little bit.
I was like, that's just an orc.
Yeah. And so that's whenever we
Cenobites and orcs gang up and they kill everyone.
And they're all trying to yell at each other, like, what do we do now? And she's like, I dropped the box. And so she's like, Colin, you have to do it. So then Colin comes up and he's trying to find the box, but it's not there anymore. And surprise, who came out? Mr. fucking Roland Voight.
Yeah.
And he ends up stabbing Colin.
Trevor looks over and he sees the door open and he's like, fuck. Because at this point, Trevor, I feel like he really does have feelings for Riley now. And he's like, I don't think he actually did want it to come.
He's regretting all of this. Yeah.
He's like, oh God, this is a real person, and now I'm invested in this person, and I don't want them to die.
And unfortunately, Colin ends up turning around, and Mr. Voight comes out of nowhere, surprises, and just like rips him apart.
Yep.
He just stabs him with the blade and just guts him from what is it? Is the sternum to the bottom of his belly, which kind of seems
Scream and
it does, yeah.
Gut him like a fish.
It seems very much like one of those injuries that like you're probably gonna bleed out.
Yes,
because that's just so much like coverage area to be sliced through. And so poor Colin is like now on the floor bleeding out. It's all very much like, what the fuck's going on?
And Trevor even yells at him. He was like, we could have stabbed a Cenobite.
He's like, you didn't have to do that.
Doesn't matter. The Cenobites are going to come just like I want them to, regardless.
And he's like, I already got where I wanted to. Like, here's the other configuration. Like, let's go.
And then fucking Roland sells Trevor out immediately. Like any bad guy in any sort of...
Oh, yeah.
It's like telling your master plan, basically. He had to follow that kind of...
As one does.
Yeah. And he basically was like, well, Trevor knew all about it. He actually brought you here. Yeah. And I was like, what?
Exactly like that. Yeah. And so that's whenever he's telling Trevor now to like let them in. And so Trevor, of course, because he's getting paid to do all this, starts letting the Cenobites go with like letting them in with the fucking switch going on. And so at this point, we have Colin trying to run off.
Roland were fucking. And it was a master kind of situation. And that's why he listens to everything.
I don't know how Roland would be fucking with his nerve endings
being pulled all the time.
Well,
I know, but like maybe before that.
Maybe. That was also 6 years prior. And we are saying he was kind of young, so he might have been underage.
I wouldn't put it past
So,
Roland.
It's true.
Maybe he groomed him.
You could
And
have.
that's why he's so obedient.
Could be like a family friend, and that's how they have a connection or something like that. But you never know.
That made it really dark.
I'm like,
let's move along.
I'm like, you really took it there. And so we do have Colin now trying to run off and get away because obviously he was stabbed by it. And so Cenobites are after him. I keep wanting to call them like Cinnabon delights. Cenobites are after him. And so we also have, what's her name, Riley. She's trying to get away, or what is she doing? She's trying to find
and Roland's Colin. Still like telling everything too, and he says like, I chose sensation, I sought pleasure, but all they have to give me is pain. It's a trick, all of it. He kind of tells it to her, which I feel like is kind of pivotal for her choice that she's gonna make.
Like any gifts that they do give you, like it's not what you think it is.
Yeah. And then as he's putting the final configuration, the Leviathan configuration, blood's going up to the ceiling, and she's trying to go find Colin.
And we do see all the lightning happening outside above the mansion, and all the Cenobites walking in.
And Colin's running around through like a room of statues, of course. Yeah. And they're of course all marble statues, which look very similar to the
Cenobites. Cinnabon delights.
And so you're like looking around, and it's like, which one's real? And then we're also seeing the giant now configuration, basically Leviathan configuration,
coming down,
converging, and coming down to meet with the little ceiling and stuff too.
It gives very 13 Ghosts.
Independence
do you remember
Day.
that?
Yeah, I do remember 13 Ghosts.
Yeah, that's what it was kind of giving me in that moment.
Good movie.
We should cover that one.
We
sometime.
should. Yeah. I haven't seen that in so long.
Yeah.
I remember watching that when I was a kid.
I just remember the ending. And so that's whenever we do have all that going on. Mr. Voight, that's right. He starts talking with what's her face, the main Pinhead.
With Pinhead, yeah, because it says, "Tell your God I've got his disciples, his priest."
Yeah, and
that he built a cage. You thought this was to keep y'all out. This was a cage.
Yeah, just to keep you in. And so,
and Pinhead's like, all of this for us.
Yeah,
that's real nice.
and Riley ends up fucking up his plan a little bit because that's whenever. She does end up letting the priest Pinhead into where he's at, because it's like a layer of like, I keep wanting to call them chains, cages and doors, into letting up him in the middle with her. And so that's whenever he is demanding for them to take away his choice of like whatever it was, that harpsichord thing pulling all of his freaking nerves.
Please take this away.
Yeah. And she's like, you don't want our gifts?
Yeah. Like, rude.
Yeah.
And she says, there's no retreat once the threshold is crossed. Our gifts cannot be returned.
You can only seek more.
Exchanged.
Yeah, exactly.
This is, you can't get your money back,
but we'll give you another one.
You can get store credit.
Literally. Essentially. And she does even say, like, maybe we were wrong about you. Maybe you don't lie in, what is it? Lemon?
Yeah, she says.
Liminal?
Yeah, liminal. And she says perhaps and there's also, while all this is happening, Gasper is coming in on Colin. Colin's getting kind of ripped apart. And then at one point, both the Gasper and Pinhead at the same time say, perhaps you prefer another. And then this is where Pinhead says, your pleasures lie in power, not in sensations, not in the liminal. Yeah.
And that's whenever we do have, as Colin is getting like almost ripped apart by this like not barb, but just wiring around him. She's given the choice of taking Trevor's life and trading it for Colin's, and she does, because she stabs him with the box.
She stabs Trevor.
And now they're coming after Trevor as opposed to coming after Colin. And at the same time, we do have
Pinhead offering the Leviathan configuration
to Mr. Roland Voight.
And he takes it, and he's being released from the machines.
It's really cool. I actually do like how it does come apart, and you see like his body kind of coming back together.
Growing back, yeah. Which then kind of also reminded me, the way that looked, almost looked like it was filmed in reverse.
Kind of like how the original was.
Yeah. So I thought that hopefully that was a little nod to the original.
It's funny too though, because just as soon as he comes like back and he thinks like, oh yay, I'm back to normal, this big ass like chain just comes and stabs him right through the middle.
I was like, well, never mind. Gets him right in the same spot.
Ugh, so bad.
I was like, okay, And then the way that Trevor's now getting wrapped up,
and he just starts getting skinned. His flesh is getting peeled back,
pulling it down.
That would be so painful.
And this is where Pinhead says, "We have such sights to show you."
That's right.
That's
for
the
Miss
line.
Riley, as they're trying to, you got to the end. What's your gift? And she is then choosing, as also Mr. Voight is getting like pulled up and sucked out to wherever he's going now.
Trevor goes into a pit. That
Trevor
thing
goes to the
opens,
pit, yeah.
and then Roland's going up.
Yeah.
Which was like, oh.
And heaven or hell.
Yep.
And that's whenever we do have them, like you said, asking her, and that's whenever she declines and she says, "I've seen what your gifts are and I don't want them."
Yeah.
And that's whenever
and even her brother showed up there, and he says, "Take my hand, take me home," and she says, "No, I don't want any of this."
Nar. Yeah. And so I love how Pinhead is even just like, "You don't want anything, you deny your gifts, okay, you choose the lament life's thing." And she's like, you have chosen a life of regret. Exactly.
And then the Gasper says, "Your suffering is barely begun. You choose to live to carry that weight. You've chosen like all the people that you've harmed, and because of all of this, basically this is all your fault. Have fun living with this grief."
And so that's whenever, which essentially I think even to the Cenobites, like I feel like the whole thing is like so much more of like feeling sensations that like are pain, physical, something that is really using all of the mind's energy to like focus on that, as opposed to focusing on like the overbearing grief of like mental, whatever. And so they end up they're gone, they leave. And
Box is back to the start. We're back at the beginning. Her and Trevor walk out. Her and Colin walk out. Sorry, I wrote the wrong note. But then Colin says she made the right choice, because he was like, "What were you doing in there?" And she says, "I made a choice." And he goes, "Well, it was the right one."
And she was just like, but also,
and I think it was.
Yeah. And so we do then, thankfully there's no dragon ending scene, but what we do see is
Roland's little shriveled pee-pee.
Yeah, and then he ends up getting transformed into a Cenobite.
And his body being like folded and the skin being torn apart. And then the way that thing that he was on, it was a very, very religious, like, he looked like Jesus on the cross with a halo around his head as he was up there.
It does give that, but my mind immediately went to, it gives very Darth Vader. Like whenever Darth Vader was getting recreated and stuff.
Yeah, he was giving me what's that old wrinkly one? Like who was in charge of Darth Vader?
Oh, Darth Sidious.
Yeah.
Very
giving him
Gordon from the Power Rangers.
Yeah. Whenever before his skin got ripped off, I thought he did very much look like Darth Vader, though. I was like, okay, all of this is giving very Darth much Vader that vibes. But as it panned out, it was, a very cross-like configuration, and it looked like sticking to that religious iconography till the end.
And that would be the end of Hellraiser 2022, which you can watch on Hulu.
Yeah, and surprisingly didn't actually have a lot of ads. Whenever I was watching this one, more like normally there's more ads.
Yeah.
This one had like a 3-second ads where it would just go black for a second and it would say ad, and then it said 3. And then it would count down, and then it was just back to the movie. And I was like, what? Okay.
They really wanted you to stick in with it.
I guess.
So
I was like, maybe because it's a Hulu original.
Maybe. Let's see.
Tell us your booze.
My boo for this movie would be, my boo rating, I would give it a 3. Right in the middle of the road.
Why is that?
I enjoyed the story of where it went. Overall, I think I maybe would have enjoyed, it's funny because I feel like my perfect movie would be the whole aesthetic and everything that was kind of going on with the first one, but with the storyline of it being what this one brought, where it was kind of like almost like Final Destination vibes, or like It Follows, where you're like cursing someone else with something else.
And you remember when the brother woke up from the dreams and then he went to go find Riley, and that truck with the chains came by?
Oh, yeah.
That gave me very Final Destination. Sorry. That was
that's true.
Recovered thought I just had.
No, you're good. It was also a reference just to like how much Clive Barker loves chains and how they were all used in the first one. But I do like the storyline of how it was like, it would it would change after you killed someone essentially each time, as opposed to like how in the first one the box wasn't necessarily used.
The box was used to basically get the Cenobites there.
Yeah,
but the death was happening to
just normal men that she was luring over and like having
to help
sleep with. Frank come back to normal.
Yeah,
but maybe there's a lot of ways that like all of this works. This is just another iteration of how the box was being used. Maybe it was even that same way back then, but they just weren't using it in
Frank
that way.
Was simply the first iteration,
and he was just trying to. Yeah, he chose life.
Yeah,
or resurrection is what it is.
Yeah, he was resurrected.
Yeah. Exactly. And he came back like that. So that's how Matt would have came back if she probably resurrected him, you know.
Which I would
very
be
corpse bride.
Yeah.
Or probably would now only crave flesh. You know?
Cool. I love it. It was so whenever I was a child, my idea
Were you a child?
No. But whenever I was younger, there was my idea of heaven and hell. I don't remember if it was my mother who explained it to me this way or what, but I thought of like, if you go to heaven, you can go and wish for whatever you want and you'll get it.
Gotcha.
But if you go to hell, you can also do the same thing and wish for whatever you want. Like, so if you went to heaven, you could wish for a box of chocolates and Forrest Gump and eat it. Or you could go to hell, wish for a box of chocolate, but there's nails in it.
Gotcha.
And that was like my idea of heaven and hell.
I mean,
as
I
a
could
kid.
see that.
And
that would be a hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have chocolates.
So you basically get what you want, but it's like the worst form or version, or there's a twist on it.
And so that's what it kind of felt like how this would be. Like you get your wish, but something's
Be careful
wrong.
what you wish for.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I give it just a 3 because I mean, well, I do enjoy, like, it's like I like it, but I'm not like super ravingly mad crazy about it.
Yeah.
I do like that there's no like little lightning effects in this one.
That's true.
I honestly, I know that you didn't care too much for the design of the Cenobites, but I liked it. I thought it was pretty cool. I thought it was like a very interesting take on what they would look like in this person's like reimagining of the storyline.
I think they did look cool.
I do.
It's just it didn't feel Pinhead to me.
Yeah. And you know, I do understand that like in the first one, I would say that they had like a different like gravitas to them, like they were just putting off its different vibes.
Yeah.
And you're right, this kind of gave more sci-fi, like, you know, alien, whereas like the other one gave like humanoids, but like, you know, they were also more serious, and it seemed like these were kind of more like like kind of hackling and cackling at the humans, and kind of more like enjoying the pain that they were doing, whereas like the first ones I feel like were very much more just like you said earlier, doing their job, you know. But I give it 3 boos from this BooBae.
Fun. I like it.
Caitlin gives it 1.
No, my original thought was 2, and I think I'll stick with it. I don't know, after talking about it, I feel like maybe I appreciate it a bit more. But no, I'm going to stick with the 2. Overall, the storyline actually wasn't my favorite. I do think it's cool how it has the different configurations.
Yeah. What don't you like about it?
I don't know. It just felt very different. And which is like, okay, it's a different take on it.
Yeah.
But then like also if you're going to call it just Hellraiser, and I feel like maybe
you think maybe it was just like it should have had like a Hellraiser like ... like something else title.
Yes.
Like this is not necessarily a remake,
it's not a remake,
but it's like a different story. Yeah.
The Hills Have Eyes remake is basically shot for shot.
Yeah.
It can be called The Hills Have Eyes.
I get it.
Because it's a true remake with an artistic and using modern technology.
Yeah.
This one was a different story entirely.
Yeah.
Not even at all the same.
No.
It does still have the kind of sexual like innuendos and tendencies and masochism and stuff like that happens, but it just was a little maybe too different for me. I didn't mind it in all. It was maybe a little too long. I don't think it needed to be 2 hours. There are certain movies, we all know that I don't mind a long movie.
Yeah.
This one I was like, okay,
there
when
was
is
some
this going
stuff
to end?
that could have got chopped up.
Yeah.
A little bit more condensed, probably.
Yeah. Just a little bit to like, even if it's an hour and 45.
And the third act was as well pretty long for a third act.
Yeah. And the Cenobites, I do think yes, I thought the way that their skin was pulled back and then that made like their kind of clothing-esque, that looked cool. I liked that. And then it feels very much more like it's leaning into that torture. The original Pinhead does give more like leather, like bondage kind of idea, which I obviously don't mind. But I don't know. It felt very different. And then it was very... It almost felt like it was like too artistic though. And then the way that their skin looked, it felt like it just leaned maybe too much into the special effects rather than practical effects. Like in Fear Street, in the third one, whenever that guy got axed, and like in the first one, the killings looked really good. Yeah. Because it was like more practical effects, but then for that third one, they used more special effects.
Oh, and whenever it looked like the blood was coming out, but it was like very fake blood.
Yeah, and it just looked cheap to me. And that's what this kind of felt like. And with the technology and everything that we have today, and like,
it could have been better.
The different, like, the way that you see makeup and like prosthetics change people entirely, I felt like they could have just done it better with like practical effects. There were certain aspects of it that just didn't look as, I felt, quality as they could have been. And the fact that the practical effects in the first one were just so good, in my opinion, that they held up to this day, still looking good. I don't know. It just kind of was like a little bit of a letdown, because I would have loved to have seen, and honestly, I would love to see a remake, like shot for shot remake of the original. Without the electric shock thingies.
Just the exact same story.
Those were cheap.
Like newer.
Yeah, and then just more well done. I think that would be awesome. Yeah. And I'd probably give that one a 5 if it's done. Ari Aster, pick it up and I'll love it.
We'll have to fund it. Yeah. We'll put our $5 in.
But yeah, so I think 2 for me.
A 2.
Overall, I didn't mind it. And after talking about it, like, there were more scenes that I appreciated than I thought. And like Nora's scene in the van, I did really love that. I thought that was awesome. Yeah. I loved the way that got pulled away, and her like praying. And I actually, the way that they did, and I have to appreciate the fact that they leaned more into Clive Barker's original idea of the priest and that religious ideology.
Especially how she is called the priest now, as opposed to like just
Pinhead
labeled as
which that was cool. And then they did a good job of weaving it in throughout, more so than just the like statues of Mary and Jesus or Joseph or whatever, and and Frank's house. But I thought that part was kind of cool. And while I will probably never refer to Pinhead as the priest,
no one will. Because that name is already like synonymous. Stuck. It's like everybody knows that character.
Pinhead. That's Pinhead. Yeah. You don't call him anything else. And so, or her. Then,
they, them.
Yeah.
They, them.
Oh, move over, Babadook.
We got a new ally.
We got Pinhead.
And so that's whenever we have, that's pretty much it. That's it, right? I'm going back into the movie.
I was like, what? I was like, are we telling another scene?
So we have our 3 and we have our 2.
2.5.
So 2.5, yes.
Yeah.
For Hellraiser 2022. Once again, we are in the lovely Rogue Media Network studios.
That's
really
right.
take good care of us.
All the time.
Listen to our podcast and a lot of other podcasts on their website, which is
roguemedianetwork.com. And you can listen to us on a slew of other podcasting platforms, the biggest 2 being
Spotify
and also Apple. But wherever you do listen, don't forget to
rate, review, like, and subscribe.
That's right. Because that's the only way we can get ahead in this world. And then if you want to let us know your thoughts on the 2022 Hellraiser, or if you would like to let us know your thoughts and your favorite horror film for a listener request.
Yes.
Yeah, because we will be doing another listener request this week. Or did we already cover it? I think this one.
It's coming. They're coming out the same weeks. Yeah.
Are they?
Yeah.
I think this one comes out before.
Oh, does it? Oh,
because next week Pinhead would, or Hellraiser would come out.
So you've already listened to the listener request.
You've already listened to the listener request.
Oh, the funny ways of how it works on the back end.
How much did you love our covering of From Sunny?
From Sunny, yes. What Keeps Us Alive.
Yes.
It's a very good, we will see as movie.
Yes.
And the rating. I guess.
Hope you liked it. I don't know. We haven't covered it yet.
I know. I was like, how do I talk about it if we do cover it? But I don't want to.
Weird.
We can't give our ratings without having the review. So
That's right.
Yeah. So we'll wait till then. But anyways, until then, guys.
Well, you can reach out to us on our one social media
you could.
platform, which is Instagram at
BooBaes Podcasts, and that's BOOBAES, because we're your BooBaes, not your BooBabes.
That's right. And now until next time, you guys.
Bye, Baes.
Bye, Baes.
This has been a Rogue Media podcast.